Taking a look at Litecoin from the previous video, we can see that Litecoin had a small wick to the upside. However, the sellers have stepped in once again. So if we do zoom in, we can actually take a fib from the high before the crash down to the low that was confirmed with an actual candle and not a giant wick. And you can see that Litecoin has gotten rejected at the 618 retracement on the smaller time frames. This would suggest that in the short term, Litecoin is considered bearish below $109. You could make the case that from the low up to the high, the 618 retracement is at $91, which would suggest that if Litecoin can bounce off of $91, you could potentially see a short-term bounce back to the upside. However, a break below $91 would signal a much larger move down to potentially the low and a new low on the smaller time frames, because if we zoom in, that's what the prices are on the shorter time frames. But if you zoom out, it is worth noting that you did just form another lower high. In the big picture, however, one would make the case that Litecoin is forming a very large uptrend. If Bitcoin ends up crashing down into the low 90s, one would make the case that Litecoin will end up crashing back down to potentially $70. And from there, you should potentially see a bounce. However, if Litecoin ends up breaking below $70 at any time, then the macro top is in and a move back down to $40 will take place, in my opinion. Now on the flip side, if Litecoin is able to hold support and break back over 110, then we could look for a larger rally up to the macro resistance at $130 and potentially a breakout to $170, which is the 618 retracement. So if Bitcoin enters a bear market, we would be looking for Litecoin to come down to below $70. And if Bitcoin holds the bull market, then a break over 112 will send you up to 130, potentially 170, in my opinion.